Welcome back to the Kosi Arsenal podcast. My name is Kosi. Welcome back to a brand new video. I am scared, and I think you should be too if you're an Arsenal fan, especially. Now, this season, the thinking is that Arsenal have to go on and win something major, UEFA Champions League, Premier League, or maybe, if the worst comes to the worst, the FA Cup. And I still think Arsenal will win silverware. I still think that we can win the FA Cup. But when it comes to the Champions League and the Premier League, I'm really worried about this Arsenal side. There are so many points that we can talk about, but I've prepared 4 that we have to talk about. One is the fact that Arsenal lack a proper threat up top, and you know what I mean. If you watch the Brighton game, if you watch the Aston Villa game, if you watch the first game that we played against Wolverhampton Wanderers, this team is not scary up top. This team doesn't carry the same threat we carry at the back. When you look at Arsenal's, Arsenal at the back, and you look at Arsenal's ammunition up top, I think we have one of the weakest attacks in the Premier League. I'm sorry to say that. And then the lack of depth in the midfield is something that I want us to talk about, because that is something that I feel is, the midfield is so lightweight, and it's a point that we've got to talk about. First and foremost, I want to say this. Jorginho, Partey and Declan Rice play in the same position. So apart from that, you have Merino and Odegaard as the 2 attacking midfielders that you have in the team. And Merino is injured for quite some time. Could be 4 weeks, could be 6 weeks, could be 8 weeks. We don't know really. Some guy fell onto his shoulder in training, and that could take some time. And again, apart from Odegaard, we do not have a player in midfield, in attacking midfield, that has actually worked under Mikel Arteta, and it has worked. Vieira has not worked, Kai Havertz has not worked, and Mikel Merino, we don't know what to expect at the moment. So we lack depth in midfield, and finally, injuries and fitness issues are catching up with us. So we've got to talk about Arsenal this season. We've got to talk about the reality. Yes, I know against Brighton, everyone is talking about the referee, but people just don't want to talk about the truth. The truth is that Arsenal were not as threatening as we should have been at home against a team like Brighton. For me, I look at the Brighton side as a team that Arsenal are supposed to beat, and until 49 minutes, Arsenal were leading that game a goal to nil, but it didn't fill me with a lot of confidence that Brighton were not going to score, or Brighton were not going to have a result in that game. So I want your thoughts about our season. You've seen 3 games so far. We are going to take a break. The break is much needed, especially with the injuries of Gabriel Jesus and Mikel Merino. That will allow us to have 2 weeks, just kind of cheating, 2 weeks where our injured players are not playing football, but also the team is not playing football. Otherwise, it is not looking good. Now, I want to start off with the preparations, because that is my problem. There are things you might not be able to control. You might not be able to control injuries. You might not be able to control fitness issues, especially if you're working with a smaller squad and you're still building your squad. But my problem with Arsenal this summer is we look underprepared. We did not prepare well enough. And when I say we didn't prepare well enough, I'm looking at Man City. And Man City, just like Arsenal, there are a few players out in the Euros. There are a few players are playing until the final. Rodri obviously going off with an injury threat. By the way, Manchester City have won 3 games in a row without Rodri in the team. You know what that means? That means that we are done, right? This team doesn't win games without Rodri. Now that they are winning games with Rodri, and Ilkay Gundogan is back, and Kovacic is doing all this crazy stuff, and by the way, Kovacic was also at the Euros, this is what we call a prepared side. This is what you call a team that has prepared for the new season. I think Arsenal are underprepared. Now, we played so many games in pre-season, and some of the games that I looked at and I was like, okay, this Arsenal team has some work to do, was the Liverpool game. The Liverpool game highlighted problems that Mikel Arteta had to work with. I don't think we've worked on them. I don't think we are, we are much better than we were in that Liverpool game in pre-season. I don't think we are. So that game highlighted big issues, real issues, right? And personally, I said, I don't think Arsenal have a number 6. I think Partey, by the way, in the 3 games, he's been the better midfielder. And I'll tell you this, Partey is playing poorly. And that tells you that this team, especially in midfield, is playing poorly. Because apart from Thomas Partey, who has had bad games in midfield, for me, he has been the shining star. Declan Rice has been absolutely awful, and I don't think we have enough cover for him there. And then Odegaard, he's not been absolutely awful, but he's not up to the standards. And we know that Odegaard, sometimes he begins the season on a low, and then he goes into the season slowly but surely. So I don't think we're prepared enough in terms of transfers, in terms of preparing for this big season. I just don't feel it. I just don't see a well-prepared side. I look at Brighton. I've watched all 3 Brighton games. That is a prepared side. And by the way, they've introduced a new manager to the squad, and they've brought in, many new players. I mean, Ruta is in there. Matt Pfeiffer is in there. I think Matt O'Reilly is another one. They have introduced so many players, but they look prepared. They're a team that, have that cohesion. But with Arsenal, apart from bringing the same classic Arsenal performances that we had last campaign, this team doesn't seem prepared. We don't look like... I've seen Robbie on AFTV using these excuses. It's a new season. Man City have already won 3 games, and Haaland has scored more goals than Arsenal have scored this season. And for them... it's the mentality of the team. It's the mentality that Rodri was talking about. For Arsenal, it's about, it's a new season, we can drop some points. With Manchester City, they're saying it's West Ham, it's Ipswich, it's whoever else they played, we can't drop points. They've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten West Ham, and they've also beaten Ipswich. Just to be precise, Arsenal failed to beat West Ham last season, and also to be precise, Arsenal also failed to beat Chelsea last season in one of the games. So City look more prepared. They are very serious, and I don't think we are that prepared. And I'm scared that because we are playing them in game week number 5, we might be looking at Manchester City opening up like a 5-point gap or a 6-point gap already. By the time we end December, and if they are 10 points above us by the time we end December, it's not looking good. I'm telling you, we are not beating City with this team. With the way we are playing right now, we are not going to beat them in game week number 5. Now, the second reason why I am scared for this Arsenal side is that lack of threat that I talked about in the introduction of this video. It is not good. Guys, it is not looking good. Yes, Don Robbie is going to tell you that Arsenal, suffered because of the referee. Don Robbie is going to tell you that Arsenal are just suffering because it's the beginning of the season. Why are we the only team that has the excuse it's just the beginning of the season? When Leicester City lose a game, they're going to be relegated. Look at how they're losing games earlier in the campaign. When Man City win games, it's early in the season. It really doesn't matter even if they win 10 out of 10. If you want to win the Premier League, you set the standard. And that's what Manchester City have done for the last 10 years. They have set the standard, and a few teams have come in and have actually hit the bar. Liverpool have come in and hit the bar. I think Manchester United came in and hit the bar under Sir Alexander Chairman Ferguson. Just a few teams that have come in and hit the bar, right? That has been set by Man City. And I think with Arsenal, psychologically, we have failed to meet the requirements that have been set by Pep Guardiola and his men to win this league. So the lack of threat in this team has to be talked about. I do not care if the referee was that bad. I do not care if the referee was not on our side. You're not going to have a good referee performance every single day. It's not going to happen. But what you're supposed to do, and what you're supposed to consider when the game is not good, when you get glorious opportunities and glorious chances, can you bury those chances? I think that is what Arsenal have to focus on. What our focus should be, what is in our hands. The referee's performance is not in our hands, right? Saka said that Arsenal need some consistency with the referees. We do need some consistency, but these inconsistencies are not against Arsenal only. And by the way, Wolverhampton Wanderers last season, they went to the PGMOL and they informed them that they were, preparing a petition to scrap VAR, right? And every team, 19 teams out of 20, apart from Wolves, said, we want VAR, it should stay, right? So I don't want people, and I don't want to hear, any teams, apart from Wolves, complaining about officiation and complaining about decisions. If we really cared, we should have had the Arsenal among the teams that said, we want to scrap VAR, it's killing the beautiful game. Ever since that day, I'm absolutely angry. So, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Kai Havertz, there is no threat there. I'm telling you, yes, we will score goals. I don't care, we might score 90 goals. There is no real threat there. Against Brighton, 2 glorious chances, beautiful chances. Yes, it's 1-1. Arsenal survived narrowly. I think, Brighton should have scored. We were lucky. And then our number 9, the guy that is tasked with getting us the goals, gets a clear opportunity through on goal, 1v1. We've talked about Arsenal signing a striker for a long time. And I'm really happy. I mean, I'm not happy because we didn't win, but I'm glad that happened, because many people have been telling me we don't need a striker, we're scoring 90 goals. You don't need a striker because you want to score 90 goals. You want a striker to get that chance, right? You want that beautiful chance, that much needed chance to fall onto your number 9. That chance that falls onto Kai Havertz, that chance that fell onto Bukayo Saka. We all know how unclinical Bukayo Saka is. We all know how unclinical Havertz is. And we all know that Gabriel Jesus, in terms of being clinical, is worse than both of them. And Arsenal view Gabriel Jesus as a high caliber striker. And that tells you everything you need to know. So for me, with the UEFA Champions League run that we have and that attack, I don't think that attack is scary at any point. It is not. The addition of Raheem Sterling might change the dimension of things a little bit. And I pray, by the way, that Raheem Sterling starts each and every game, this campaign. Because he's the only guy we have. Trossard is not good when he starts, is good off the bench. Can you explain that? Like, yeah, we have a guy that we can rely on, but he only comes off the bench. If he starts games, we can't rely on him. So that attack is not threatening. That attack lacks clear threat. The midfield is something I wanted to talk about, like, even in the summer, but I waited for Arsenal to do something before we talked. So this is our midfield primarily. Ethan Nwaneri, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Jorginho Partey, right? And Mikel Merino. Those are 6 players. Now, what is interesting is that Jorginho, Partey, and Rice all have to play in the number 6, right? Mikel Merino then plays alongside or shares minutes with Ethan Nwaneri, and Odegaard shares minutes with no one. Now, this is a summer where Arsenal sold Emile Smith-Rowe, doing well at Fulham so far. I'm not saying it was a mistake. I'm saying we offloaded someone. We offloaded Albert Samuel Konga, and we offloaded Fabio Vieira, and we brought in one player. In what world does that make sense? In what world is that, defendable? How do we defend that? So now Mikel Merino is injured. Declan Rice is on a red card. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, against Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal introduce Ethan Nwaneri to the pitch. I don't have a problem with Mikel introducing young players, especially if they are good. But I think we let ourselves down. That's the truth. We let ourselves down. There was a massive opportunity, there was a massive chance for Arsenal to go and create magic We could have signed so many players. Yusuf Fofana was available. Amadou Onana was available. Douglas Luiz was available. There's so many players. Clearly, we need another midfielder. We are one injury away, one Odegaard injury away from us to, realizing we are actually not good enough. So that midfield, and I tell you, injuries will bite us, because that's the other point I have here. Injuries will come back to bite us. These players are tired. Mikel Merino is 28 and he played almost each and every game for Real Sociedad last campaign, and he played every game at the Euros. He is tired. He didn't even have a preseason. Declan Rice is tired. Trust me. Jorginho is old and tired, and Partey is old and tired. So injuries and burnout are going to catch up with that. With us, we don't have enough depth in midfield. It just doesn't look good. It really doesn't look good. Maybe we are just raising the bar too high and the team is okay with qualifying for Champions League every single season. But I'm sorry, I'm thinking Arsenal want to win the Premier League. Unless otherwise, that is my line of thought. So finally, City looks stronger, guys. City looks stronger. And with City looking stronger, there are two things here. One, you give up because they were at their lowest. They were at their worst last campaign, and they accumulated 90 points plus. They are looking good. Guys, they are looking good. Savio, Grealish, and Doku. Haaland scoring 7 goals in 3 games. Kevin De Bruyne is fit. Bernardo is okay. They are looking good. They're looking good, and we are looking poor. So unless we are going to have a miraculous drop-off, and unless we are going to escape injuries miraculously again for the 3rd season running, I don't think we are the team that has to compare themselves with Manchester City. Honestly. And I don't think Liverpool are either, because, I know people have been saying Liverpool look good. They don't look good. I'm not going to say they don't. They really look good. But I'm just having this line of thought, right? I'm just having this line of thought that City might win this league by Christmas. If they dare open up a 7-point gap between first place and second, it's over. How do we fix this? That will be in my next video, because I really do not know. But we'll find ways. This channel is all about that. We always talk about Arsenal, and I always try to pinpoint our problems and find ways. At the moment, I really can't say I have a solution. I mean, what's the solution to burnout? Rotation. Who do we rotate with? That forward line has some sick players, but I just don't feel like it's good enough. Right? But share with me your thoughts in the comment box below. These are kind of my lessons from the Brighton game. I hope we do better against Tottenham. I hope we do better against Manchester City. But it's not looking good.